Prime Field.
South Carolina went down 14-0 before most fans even found their seats. So here's the question. If Texas cracked the code in 3 minutes and 24 seconds, did they just hand UConn the national title blueprint? Because this was not just a bad start, it was a tactical leak. Texas finished the job 78-61, forced 14 South Carolina turnovers, and turned that pressure into 16 points off turnovers. And the scary part for the rest of women's college basketball is this. The team watching all of this with the biggest smile might be UConn, now sitting at 33 wins and no losses. But wait, this is not another generic South Carolina finally lost recap. This is the film room version. We are breaking down the exact pressure points Texas attacked, why KK Arnold's built to copy them, why Azzi Fudd changes the geometry of the floor, and why Sarah Strong might be the final piece that makes UConn the one team South Carolina really does not want to see in March. Let us start with the sequence that changed everything. In the first 3 minutes and 24 seconds of the Southeastern Conference title game, Texas ripped South Carolina apart with the kind of backcourt pressure that turns disciplined teams into rush teams. South Carolina committed 5 turnovers in that opening stretch, while Texas kept converting in rhythm. This is the first big point. Texas did not beat South Carolina with miracle shot making. They beat them by owning the first pass. Every press break starts with one question. Can your guards catch, turn, and organize? Texas answered that with chaos. Their guard pressure sped up the ball, flattened South Carolina's spacing, and forced the Gamecocks to begin possessions already tilted. And when South Carolina got disorganized, Texas cashed out. The Longhorns scored 40 points in the paint. That is the part people miss. The turnovers were not the ending. They were the beginning. You force live ball mistakes on the perimeter, then the help rotates early, and the lane opens. Then your bigs are playing with angles instead of bodies. That is exactly how a great defense becomes an avalanche offense. But wait, why does this matter for UConn more than anybody else? Because Texas may have revealed a structural flaw, not a one-game fluke. South Carolina is still 31-3, still one of the best teams in America, and still elite defensively with an 89.2 defensive efficiency, which remains a top 10 number. But against elite pressure guards, there is a window. If you can disrupt the initiation of offense before South Carolina settles into its half-court size and depth, you can keep their front line from becoming overwhelming. And no team in the country is better equipped to hunt that exact window than UConn. The Huskies are 33-0 and sitting on the best defensive efficiency of the 3 heavyweight teams here at 85.1, which ranks first nationally. Texas showed the weakness, and UConn has the sharper version of the tool. Point number 2. KK Arnold is the blueprint inside the blueprint. Texas used relentless point-of-attack pressure to rattle South Carolina's ball handlers, and when you map that activity onto UConn's personnel, one name jumps off the screen: KK Arnold. Arnold is built for this kind of game. She does not just defend actions. She attacks dribbles, passing windows, and timing. She turns basic initiation into late clock offense. And against a team that looked vulnerable when Texas has sped up the first pass, that matters more than any highlight jumper. But wait, pressure only works if the offense on the other end makes you pay. That is where Azzi Fudd changes the equation. Because if South Carolina has to worry about pressure behind the ball and elite shot making in front of it, the floor stretches in both directions. Texas forced South Carolina to defend under stress. UConn can do that too, but with even more punishment for overhelp and bad closeouts. Fudd's gravity means every aggressive stunt, every gamble, and every overloaded help rotation becomes more dangerous. So now imagine the full chain reaction. KK Arnold disrupts the setup. UConn's defense turns that into a broken possession. Then on the other side, Azzi Fudd makes the defense choose between staying attached to the perimeter or giving up clean interior reads. And that brings us to the biggest reason UConn is different from every other South Carolina challenger. Point number 3. Sarah Strong is the connector Texas had in pieces, but UConn has in one player. Everyone knows Gino Auriemma matters, but the matchup cheat code might actually be Sarah Strong, who's averaging 18.5 points per game, and gives UConn something almost nobody else has: point forward dominance with elite defensive impact. Here's why that matters. Texas hurt South Carolina with guard pressure and paint production. Most teams can maybe do one of those. UConn can do both, because Sarah Strong is the bridge between those worlds. She can initiate, she can finish, she can punish switches, she can rebound and start the break herself. And if you are trying to copy the Texas formula, the hardest part is usually finding a forward who can think like a guard without losing size. That is why this is not just award hype. This is schematic power. Compare the star numbers. Joyce Edwards is at 13.0 points per game. Madison Booker is at 18.7 points per game. Sarah Strong is at 18.5 points per game too, but with the point forward versatility that makes her feel less like a scorer and more like a system breaker. And remember the Madison Booker idea from this matchup. That is the real fear factor. Texas showed South Carolina can be stressed by a star who bends the floor and punishes indecision. Sarah Strong may be the closest thing in America to that exact problem, except in a UConn ecosystem that is even cleaner. Point number 4. The numbers say this is a matchup problem, not just a talent debate. South Carolina is 31-3 with an 89.2 defensive efficiency. Texas is 31-3 with an 87.5 defensive efficiency that ranks among the 5 best in the country. UConn is 33-0 with an 85.1 defensive efficiency that leads the nation. That defensive ladder matters because championship games at this level are not usually decided by who has the hottest scorer. They are decided by who can create extra possessions without sacrificing structure. Texas created those extra possessions with pressure. UConn creates them all season by turning defense into offense over and over again. That fits this conversation perfectly. So when people talk about UConn's perfect season chase and ask whether they can really go unbeaten all the way through March, the better question might be this. Who in the bracket can survive 40 minutes against a defense that already looks mathematically aligned with the exact blueprint that just broke South Carolina? But wait. South Carolina fans are going to say, hold on, we still own the size edge. Fair. South Carolina still has enormous physicality, elite depth, and one of the best coaches in the sport in Dawn Staley. This is not a South Carolina's finished video. It is a warning about what happens when a great team finally shows its pressure point on national film. Because once that film is out, every serious contender is studying it, but only one contender has the full personnel package to recreate it at a championship level. And that is UConn. The UConn wall idea is what makes this feel real. Texas won with pressure and control in the paint. UConn can deploy a rotating defensive wall with Sarah Strong and Sarah Williams mirroring the interior resistance that made Texas's scheme hold up possession after possession. So now you're not just talking about one defender picking up full court, you're talking about wave pressure outside, support length inside, and transition punishment the moment the ball comes loose. That is how unbeatable teams suddenly look beatable. Not because they got worse, but because someone finally found the right key. And here's the final twist. The public story is still going to orbit the big names, Gino Dawn, maybe Madison Booker after the Southeastern Conference title, but the hidden story of this tournament may be much simpler. Texas proved South Carolina can be rushed. KK Arnold is built to rush them. Azzi Fudd is built to punish the help. And Sarah Strong is built to finish the blueprint. That is why Texas did not just win a conference championship. They may have changed the national title conversation. So if South Carolina sees UConn later this month, the real matchup will not start at tip-off. It already started the second Texas went up 14-0 and put the rest of the sport on notice. Because that was not just a run, it was a scouting report. Do you think Texas exposed a real flaw in South Carolina? Or does Dawn Staley have the counter ready by March Madness? Comment your pick, subscribe for more women's college basketball breakdowns, and send this to the one friend who still thinks UConn's undefeated run is all hype.
Prime Field.